Hello, hello. My name is Sam Ederle. This is Common Enemy, and I hope you're ready for today's episode because it's just one continuous thought. I have not put out an episode of this show in 3 weeks, and that is because in the midst of everything going on, who cares what this show has to say? I didn't want you scrolling through your Instagram the past couple weeks and seeing important posts about, where to donate to Black Lives Matter, where to protest, how to help out, how to be an ally in this huge moment in history. And then suddenly you see this stupid face talking about stepping in dog poo, or when you're already naked for the shower, but the shower isn't warm yet, so you're just kind of standing there in the bathroom, silently looking at your naked self in the mirror, waiting to step in. That would have been out of place and inappropriate, and it didn't feel right to say anything, so I just didn't. With that said, I do love doing this show, and I don't know what influence it has, if any, but if it does, I feel a responsibility to express what this show and I believe is right. We haven't aired in 2 weeks because 1, you didn't need my silly goose humor, and 2, you didn't need me to manufacture a common theme to bond over. The common theme is abundantly clear. The common theme is front and center. If you are not on board with the fact that Black Lives Matter and that there's a deep-rooted issue in place, not just with the police, but with the wider American system in relation to Black lives, then what planet are you living on? You should understand that by now. You should have understood that before these protests even had to happen. Now, in terms of this episode, I don't have the depth of knowledge or the personal understanding of what Black people are going through to stand up here and lecture about the inner workings and nuances of what it's like to be Black in America. I have no idea. I mean, look at this old photo of me. I'm the one in the middle, so. And I don't want to sit here and just say that I'm committed to listening and learning, because that feels disingenuous and like I'm trying to take a shortcut to being on the good side, when what I need to do is just listen and just learn without stating it to the world. What I will say is that I constantly read, talk about, analyze, and dissect the world we live in, and I really try to think outside the box and find common threads that may not be at the forefront of everyone's mind. So this won't be very long. There'll probably be very few haha moments. But I hope it'll make you think at the very least, and maybe it'll spark an internal debate with yourself or an external debate with your friends and family. I'm going to talk about just a small part of the discourse that I feel very passionate about, and it'll be pretty serious. And then next week, I'm going to get back to talk about cartoons or bad hair days or whatever. So today's common enemy is systematic enabling, and I'm going to cover it using a lot of Apple metaphors. We've seen this kind of enabling with the big bank executives that were never prosecuted for their hand in the financial crisis, the predators in the entertainment industry that were able to commit horrible assaults without consequence, and now we're seeing it again with the police officers that are using unnecessary and extreme violence without repercussions. So I watched that video, and I really couldn't imagine someone kneeling on someone else's neck like that and having no regard for the life being lost below him. And I thought, how does Derek Chauvin get to that point? I might be wrong, but it's doubtful that he was committing an act like this as a rookie. So what happened over his 18-year career as a police officer that progressed him to that point in this feeling of invincibility and unaccountability? With more research, I see that he was the subject of 18 prior complaints filed against him with the Minneapolis Police Department's internal affairs. 18 prior complaints. Only 2 of them were closed with discipline, and the discipline was a letter of reprimand. So on 18 separate occasions, a person or group of people in that police department tried to expose this guy for some wrongdoing, and on 18 separate occasions, nothing happened. To me, that is a massive issue in the context of this whole thing. To me, that is actually the massive issue in the context of this whole thing. That is more than a, quote, bad apple in the police department, but rather a systematic issue that enables a bad apple to get more and more rotten and slowly become its worst possible self over time. You see, apples aren't just good one day and then bad the next. You can see one starting to rot over a period of time, and you can either eat it or throw it away long before it becomes fully rotten. This monster of a human was somehow able to maintain his position as a police officer, a person that defends and protects the people, even while his coworkers kept saying, hey, I think this apple's going bad. Excuse me, people in charge, this apple has bruises all over it. I think it may be getting wrong. And hey, is someone listening? Someone might want to do something about this apple over here that is clearly really bad and should be thrown away. The more he got away with doing horrible things, the more he felt he could push the boundaries. Also, the more he's let off with no punishment, the less likely his fellow officers are to whistleblow on his discrepancies. Because what's the point? If no punishments are ever being handed down, then you don't even, feel like it's worth it to tell on him. This is called systematic enabling, and it is the reality of what is going on in law enforcement, and it is why the system has to take on a certain amount of responsibility for enabling the misconduct. In an attempt to bring this rambling, semi-coherent rant to a point, I would like to reiterate that systematic enabling is an issue throughout our society. It's not just the police, and it is certainly not all police, but the police that are meant to protect and serve the people of our country cannot be even or below the rest of society in that journey. The police need to be held to the higher standard because they are supposed to be the standard on how to behave in this country, and they are currently trying to catch up to the rest of us. It can't be society here, police here, or here. It needs to be society here, police up here. And if you take anything away from this whole episode, I hope it is that you don't go to sleep with a good apple and wake up to a rotten one. You can apply this to any part of your life, relationships, career, anything. Apples sit on your counter and go rotten over 1 or 2 weeks. And in human time, I'd say that translates to about 10 or 20 years. So don't try to explain something away as a bad apple. That bad apple was in your department for almost 20 years, and people were trying to warn you as he delved into a more and more decayed state. Going rotten takes time, and it's up to the owner of the house to throw out the bad apples and replace them with fresh ones. Thank you.